My mother says that she doesn't know if people understand what happened during the corona to old people. Old people were afraid, and she couldn't understand that now her only connection with the world, with the outside world, and certainly with her children, is this small little camera.
When the pandemic started, I got very pissed off.
December 2019. News comes from Wuhan, China, about an alarming novel strain of coronavirus. What we now know as COVID-19 starts spreading, and nations worldwide enforce quarantines and lockdowns. While the world enters crisis mode, a group of filmmakers across the globe grabs their cameras to capture the lives and stories around them. Sharing these stories, they realize, even before COVID-19, we had equally virulent diseases dividing us. Perhaps this virus might be a test for humanity, a wake-up call for change. Filmmakers and storytellers from 22 countries unite in a shared goal to tell the story of a time for healing. This is Sanatione.
This is the story of two remarkable women, Irma Hall and Miriam Haimovich. Their daughters, Cece and Mikhail, help tell the story of grace, endurance, and survival.
She says that this corona actually interrupted people's life and had an effect, internal and external people's life. Throughout this period of time, it was very difficult for her.
I was really angry at the fact that they closed everything down and wouldn't let my daughter visit me anymore. They stopped all the activities. You couldn't play Pokino anymore. You couldn't play bingo. You couldn't do the exercise class. You couldn't go to movies anymore.
And now here comes Cece with the lunch for Irma.
Just so you know, this is her weekly wine supply.
Oh my God, well, it's important. That was a lot of wine.
I'm Paula from Philippines, and I am the caregiver of Ima. I'm now 1 month staying together with Ima.
I'm going to try to sneak into this sort of open courtyard, and she has a balcony, and I'm going to call now and see if the caregiver can roll her out onto her balcony, and then she can see me in the courtyard, and I go there and I can wave to her and talk to her for a few minutes. So, all right, hold on just a sec. Yeah, you wheel her out on the balcony, and I got to climb the little hill. Hold on.
Ima and I is like a mother. Even though I'm only 1 month working to her, but then we are very close now. Thank you.
Paula, I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, they've been very careful, and I can't argue with it because they've been really good. They haven't had any cases, but it's hard for her not to see me and hard for me not to. So I sneak in and we can wave at each other. So I'm down here. Can you see me? All right. Hi. Mama, keep the phone up near your... You can hear me okay, right? The check for Marietta and Linda is in one of the bags, honey. Okay. Okay, honey, I love you. Happy Mother's Day. All right. Okay, well, you can see me.
Okay, bye-bye.
Love you. Happy Mother's Day, honey. Okay, thank you. Okay.
When Mother was 3.5 years old, the war actually entered the place where she lived. That was Iași, a beautiful city in Romania. She lived in a street called Hutin. Most of the residents of this place were Germans. One of them was her neighbor. Her neighbor's name was Mitza, who was very close friend of my grandparents. When she heard that the Germans were entering their street, she told my grandmother she wanted to save the children. Mitza said, "I can take the children and I can hide them. Let me hide the children." Mitza was German. She was not afraid to keep the children since she didn't have any family. She lived by herself, so if she had been caught, they could have only harmed her. The children were my mother, who was only 3.5 years old, and her eldest sister, who was 4.5 years old. Mitza lived next to them. There was a gate, and they needed to jump above the gate in order to enter the house.
I was born August 6th in 1920 in Buckner, Illinois, a small town about 100 miles southeast of St. Louis. My grandmother delivered me because I arrived before the doctor did, and he just confirmed that my grandmother did everything right.
During those horrible days, it was pogrom in Iași, and the German herded all of the Jewish people together in the center of the city. They put them into trains, and these trains were called the death trains. My grandfather, God bless his soul, his name was Zalman, and he was put on these trains. He'd managed to jump off. He was bare skin, like the day he was born. He jumped from the train. He didn't know what to do.
And I was in the junior class play, and I was feature editor of the school newspaper. I was dating the quarterback, and so we sneaked off and got married. My son was born in February of '38, and I was 18 in August, and in June I sat in the auditorium and watched my class graduate from high school with my son sitting on my lap. I had tried to talk my husband into going to St. Louis, and he didn't want to go. I always wanted more. I don't want to continue to live like this. I want to do better, because someday I want to go to Europe. And he said, "Oh, people like us don't go to Europe." And I said, "Maybe people like you don't go to Europe, but people like me do." And so it was shortly after that that I left him and went to St. Louis.
My grandfather was courageous enough to run back to his home, and his wonderful neighbor, Mitza, she saw him. She asked him what happened. He told her the story. Each person that was put on the death train received a certificate that actually allowed him to be on this train. How ridiculous it sounds. And this wonderful Mitza went to my grandmother, who was still hiding at her home, not together with her children. Mitza told my grandmother that she was going to hide my grandfather as well.
Yes, I remember the Depression very well. I used to look out the window and see the people on relief going by with their little red wagons loaded with vegetables.
So she took him to her large cellar where both of his daughters were hiding in a garbage bin. Mitza didn't want the girls to know their father was there. because they would make noise and be discovered. My mother, a sister, and their father were in the cellar more than a month, and they didn't have anything to eat, only very little bread and water. They heard the planes all above their heads, and they heard screaming and shouting, and they didn't know what was going on outside.
I was in the movie theater when they announced over the loudspeaker, the hardest thing for me was putting my son in boarding school because his father got drafted. He had my little boy at that time because I worked in an arms factory.
The cellar was the place for dogs, and dogs were supposed to frighten whoever tried to enter the cellar. My mother and her sister were crying, looking for their mother. They didn't know that their father was there. The wonderful lady, their neighbor Mitza, told them to be quiet. Be quiet, and I will let you out the minute I hear that the Russians will enter our street. Then I will know it is safe enough. Then I will let you go out. My grandfather also wanted to get out of his hiding place, from this box. He wanted to go back to his house. Mitza told him that the Russians entered and they were all drunk.
And we made 30 caliber bullets for the machine guns. We were working with gunpowder. I don't think any of us realized just how dangerous the work was.
The Romanian people sang to the Russians who came to rescue them a song that's telling them that they are drinkers having fun, but they were there in order to save them. It's a kind of words that lifts the spirit and show how happy they are and felt so grateful for them coming to save the Jewish people.
Rusca be, rusca plătește, rusca pusca prăpădești, rusca bea de necaz, ca pierdut pe rusca neaz.
Right after the war, my husband had come home from the war and we settled things between us. I got to keep my son.
My grandfather went back to his home. He didn't know actually what to do. He didn't know whether to wash, whether to get dressed. He was kind of lost. My grandfather and my grandmother didn't have anything to feed the girls. They didn't have any food at their home. So they went to another street in order to look for food. My mother was a young child and really doesn't remember anything. These are the things that her mother told her. My mother was ashamed about being a Holocaust survivor. She wanted to forget about this whole thing that happened to her. When my mother came to Israel in 1961, they didn't believe that she was Jewish because her name was Maria Berkovich. She didn't have any yellow badge with her name on it like other Jews. In Israel, when she came, they asked her to change her name to Miriam. So she changed her name. My mother even has a joke about the Israelis saying that she cannot be called Maria. It's a Christian name, the mother of Jesus. My mother said, "Suddenly I'm Jesus' mother. I'm full of blessing and happiness."
I went to design school. I did work for a lot of entertainers, so that was really the way my business got rolling. There was a group in the hotel lounge called the Mellow Larks. There were 3 or 4 guys and a girl, and the girl was named Jamie Dean. Janie wound up talking me into selling her my dress and altering it to fit her. And then she asked me if I could come to Vegas to make her fall wardrobe. And I said, oh, I would love to. I've never been to Vegas. I'd love to do that. So then she called me later and said, we're not going to Vegas. We're going to New York to open Monty Proser's new nightclub, La Vie en Rose. And I did go to New York, and I did make her fall wardrobe. I had perfected a pants pattern while I was designing clothes, and I used that pattern and taught a class in how to make a pair of pants, how to get them to fit you perfectly, and that class was very, very popular. And then I thought about it, and I thought, well, gee, if I'm going to do that, I might as well write a book. So I wrote the book about how to make the pants and how to adjust the pattern. I had a multi-size pattern made to go with the book, and I started doing seminars. Rockford, Illinois, Oklahoma City, the May Company here in Los Angeles.
Seară de vară, vioara cânta, aici lângă inima mea. Nu e lucru ușor să uiți un vis de amor, înțeleagă nu e nimeni.
I hope you enjoyed my singing, which talks about love. I sang for you. When I performed on stage, I sang with all my heart. I joined a group of singers and we performed together. At first, my parents were against it, yet after a while, they were pleased with my singing. We used to sing on different stages, in all kind of small places like small cafeteria, small restaurants, and theaters. I mainly volunteered and I did what I loved to do.
I always felt like I should have done more with my life. But then I thought, well, what I'm doing is helping people present themselves to the world. I thought that was a pretty good thing to do.
I have won it all. I have now 3 children and 7 grandchildren. And now she's feeling the difference. She can go out, she can raise her head, and she's blessing all of us, and she's sending her kisses.
And then got married and had my son. Then later on I had Cece, the rock of my life. I had breast cancer and I came through that, and my son died a year before. 40 some odd years later, I was diagnosed with cancer again. I don't have any regrets. I just kept going. I persevere. I'm a survivor.
My mother says good luck, and she invites everybody all over the world, come to Israel, come to my home. I live in the first apartment.
Good luck, very nice, וחג שמח.
We love red wine.
Până zor, dragilor privigători, să-mi cântați cât mai duios, poate aude frăst frumos melodia cea măiastră și bate la fereastră. Ciao!